Welcome, everyone. We're doing another deep dive today, and our mission really is to get into the skin of what's happening right now in the London luxury property market. We're going off the insights you've shared with us. And honestly, right from the start, there's something pretty surprising going on. We're seeing a pretty significant price correction recently for luxury properties. We're talking prime central London here. Think about those areas everyone knows globally, Belgravia, Mayfair, Knightsbridge, places you'd normally think are just completely solid investment-wise.
Almost bulletproof, yeah.
Exactly. But these spots have actually seen prices drop. And not just a little bit, potentially to 40%.
It's a remarkable figure.
Yeah, I mean, just think about that. Say a £10 million property. That could be, a £4 million difference in value. That feels like a massive shift for a market that usually seems so stable.
It does. And what's really interesting here, looking at the analysis, is that this isn't just, your standard market wobble tied to the wider economy. It seems to be a unique mix, a confluence of very specific things happening. Our deep dive into the shared insights really points towards new fiscal changes kind of coming together to create these exact conditions. It's why certain investors are watching very, very closely right now.
Okay, so that 40% figure, that's grabbing my attention. You're saying it's not just the economy slowing down or something general like that?
No, not primarily.
You think specific policies are behind such a dramatic drop in London's top-end property prices?
That's precisely it, yeah. The insights we've looked at highlight two really key fiscal shifts. First, the end of what people call the non-dom status, and second, increases in stamp duty. And these aren't small tweaks, they're pretty substantial changes to the financial environment, especially for the kind of ultra-wealthy individuals and international investors who found London so appealing before.
Right. Okay, for someone like me, or maybe you listening, who isn't, totally immersed in high-end property finance, how do those two things, ending non-dom status and bumping up stamp duty, actually lead to luxury flats or houses dropping by maybe 40%? What's the connection there, the direct impact?
Yeah, good question. It really gets to the motivations, the financial planning of these global investors. So the non-dom status, previously, it offered a really quite favorable tax setup for people living in the UK whose permanent home, their domicile, was technically elsewhere. Getting rid of that takes away a pretty big financial reason for some extremely wealthy people to base themselves in London and, crucially, to invest their capital there.
Okay, so one incentive is gone.
Right. Then add higher stamp duty into the mix. Stamp duty is basically the tax you pay when you buy property. And at the luxury end, it's already significant, but it's become even more formidable. Just as an example, on that 10 million property we mentioned, the stamp duty could easily be over £1 million, maybe even more now with recent hikes for the priciest homes.
Wow. £1 million just in tax to buy it.
Exactly. So it makes the upfront cost of buying these high-value properties in London clearly demonstrably more expensive for certain types of buyers. And when a critical mass of these high-net-worth individuals either steps back or pauses or maybe even leaves, that has a disproportionate effect on supply and demand in this very specific, exclusive part of the market. It creates a ripple effect, basically. Prices start to fall across the board because sellers are trying to attract buyers from a pool that's suddenly smaller.
Okay. That makes sense. So that leads to a really crucial point then. If some of those, let's call them traditional buyers, are pulling back or feeling that financial pitch, does that mean it's actually creating real openings for a different kind of buyer, maybe? Is this what the sources mean by unique buying opportunities for sophisticated investors?
Absolutely. Yes, that's exactly what seems to be emerging from the insights. The situation is being framed as quite strategic, specifically for buyers who are thinking long term. You see, when prices correct this significantly, especially because of specific policy changes rather than, say, London suddenly becoming less important globally or the buildings crumbling.
Right, the underlying asset is still strong.
Precisely. It creates a kind of strategic window. For investors who have, deep pockets and a long time horizon, these aren't people looking for a quick flip. They understand global capital. They understand the fundamental, enduring value of prime London real estate. For them, this moment might offer a unique chance to buy these assets at a notable discount compared to where they were just recently.
So like a blue chip stock having a temporary sale, as you put it earlier.
Sort of, yeah. That's one way to think about it. And we're already seeing signals that this is happening. There are mentions of notable recent purchases. High-profile investors are reportedly looking or even entering the market.
Right.
which suggests a sort of quiet confidence among those who are positioned to potentially capitalize on this repricing.
Okay, so let's try and wrap this up a bit for you listening. We've seen how these very specific fiscal changes, getting rid of non-dom status, hiking up stamp duty, seem to have combined to create some really quite unique buying opportunities in London's luxury property scene. Especially, it seems, for sophisticated investors, people who understand the long game, looking for those long-term gains. It's clearly not just a simple market downturn. It feels more like a recalibration driven by policy. And the fact that we're hearing about big names potentially moving in, that feels like a key signal to watch.
And if we step back for a moment, what does this whole London situation tell us more broadly? I think it's a powerful illustration of how government policy, fiscal policy, can really profoundly affect global capital flows. It can redefine investment strategies, certainly in high-value assets like property. It can even shift where wealth concentrates and where opportunity appears. It really makes you think about that complex dance between regulation and market forces, doesn't it? How seemingly specific policy tweaks can send massive ripples outwards.
Yeah, absolutely. And maybe a final thought for you to take away from this deep dive. Just consider how often these kinds of distinct moments driven specifically by policy changes, actually create these strategic windows. In any high-value market, really, could be real estate, could be art, could be tech. It's not just about London property today. It's more about learning to recognize when legislative shifts or tax changes might be opening up genuinely unique entry points. How could you perhaps spot similar patterns playing out elsewhere? Or even think about positioning yourself to identify these kinds of opportunities in the future? Something to mull over.